Hello mappers, here is another video under my new name, The Curious Mapper. Let's see if it sticks. I thought it was interesting, kind of interesting to give my streams a name so it become more recognizable. So I chose The Curious Mapper because I'm curious and I'm a mapper, so kind of fits. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about MapRoulette again, and specifically how to show you some tips and tricks when creating an overpass based challenge. So you may know MapRoulette has a few different ways of making a challenge, basically two different ways. One is using a GeoJSON file that contains your tasks. For each GeoJSON feature, you'll get one task. The other one that a lot of people like to use is to use Overpass, the Overpass API, to fetch things from OpenStreetMap directly and use those as tasks. So for example, if you know certain features in OpenStreetMap that need work um, and that you can query using Overpass, you can simply create a challenge using that. But there's a few caveats and I wanted to go over those this morning. So let's get started. First, I will prepare a MapRoulette project for this. So I'm logged in. I'm going to create and manage. I'm going to create a new project for this purpose. Um, I'll call it tutorial project. And I will not make it discoverable. I will not add a description for the moment. I will also not make it virtual. I want to save it, simply save it. So it will be empty. There's no challenges in it, but I will add a challenge. But first, I wanted to go to Overpass Turbo and look at a query that you could use. So the important thing to note when using Overpass and Overpass queries for MapRoulette is that you usually want either nodes or ways and not both. And especially when you work with ways, it's easy to kind of get duplicate features or get for all the ways that you want, you also get the nodes. And I'm going to show you how to prevent that from happening. So let me actually open another window. So traditionally, when you go to OSM, let's just look at a single way. Look at this one here. So this is 212. There we go. If you do an overpass way, I think it's just this out. So it will, when you just request the way, it will warn you that there's incomplete data because the way itself, if you may know from OSM, from the data structure, the data model, doesn't contain geometry itself. So the way refers to node objects. So the nodes have coordinates. So the way gets its geometry from the coordinates of the nodes. So if we want nodes as well, if we want to actually be able to display the way on the Overpass Turbo map, then we need to repair this query. If we don't, then we can just show the OSM XML, which basically contains all these node references. But as you can see, it doesn't contain any geometry, any coordinates. So this is not something we can display on a map. So if I run this again, it will again offer to repair this query, so it can do that automatically for you. Then what it will do is it will add what we call recursion. So it will for each, and this looks kind of cryptic, but what it does basically is for each way it will look at all these references, and it will also fetch the nodes with these IDs here, all these different IDs. If I run that again, and I switch to the map view, and I click on zoom data, it will actually show the way with its geometry because it will have the nodes as well. But if I switch back to data, um, it will have the references and the nodes both, of course, because we want to display the geometry. However, there's other ways that Overpass uses or employs display geometries. We can do alternatively is our geom, which offers sort of a simpler way to represent the data. As you can see, it still displays the way, but it will condense basically the representation of the way to nodes that have the references, but also the coordinates built in. So basically, you get for each node, you get one thing in the data representation. If we don't do that, if we go back again, just to remind ourselves and repair this query and run it, we'll see that we have both the node references and also um, the full node coordinates themselves. So we have two representations of each node. Um, so that confuses MapRoulette in a way that we don't want, because when we make a MapRoulette, let's just see what happens if we use this simple query to make a MapRoulette challenge. So let's create one. Tutorial challenge 1. And we paste this query, and we just go ahead and select ways here. Add a tutorial, just add the minimum amount of information. Tutorial instructions. We say next and we say finish. We get a warning here. Even though we want the way, we get node elements as well. So the tasks fail to build. So we get a warning. So we can go and edit this. And we can change the data source and remove this part that was automatically added by Overpass Turbo. And instead we do our geom and click finish. Then we'll see that we do in fact get one task. So the warning is actually new. So if you've done this before in MapRoulette and you've been confused, then you wouldn't get a warning. So in this case, you get the warning now because it's a new thing we added to MapRoulette. So we now see that we have a valid challenge with one task, which is this way. You can inspect that task and see it's the same way that we had in our Overpass map here. So now let's move on to something more complicated. So this is basically to let you know, if you want a challenge for ways, use outgeom and don't use the recursion, because the recursion will basically cause MapRoulette to be confused because it gets the nodes and the way as well, and it will not understand which of the two types you actually meant. So I prepared a more real world Overpass query as well. So this is a large query that basically asks for all the ways in North Carolina that were not edited since January 1st, 2010, and have a version lower than 3, and have the Tiger CFCC tag that was part of the Tiger import. So what this is basically I've made a larger version here so make it easier to see. So basically, let's break this down just to have a quick Overpass tutorial built in as well. So we have first we define the area. We do this by the name. This can be confusing if there's multiple areas with the same name, then this will not be reliable. So you'd have to use the area ID, which works a little bit differently. But for North Carolina, there's only one, so we can use this safely. So we store this area definition in a reference called NC. Then we fetch all the ways that have this key, and then with these conditions, so we add an if condition for the timestamp less than 2010-0101T000000. So this is the ISO representation, ISO X8601 representation of a timestamp, basically with a date. So the timestamp of the feature should be smaller than 2010 101. So it should be before the last edit for this feature should be before the 1st of January 2010. And then the second condition we add is if version of the feature is smaller than 3. So we only want objects with version 1 or 2. So for objects that have not been ways that have not been changed um, more than 2 times. This is not completely correct, but for the sake of argument, this is good enough. And then final condition is the area that we defined here, North Carolina. So if we don't do this, then we'll try and fetch this for the whole world, and Overpass will get really angry at us. And then finally, we do this, what we just learned, out geom to get the geometries as one compact package rather than the nodes and the ways separate. So that's it. We get a lot of features here. So North Carolina has a lot of old roads that have not been edited for more than 10 years and have these tiger tags. So they're probably most likely parts of the old tiger import. So these should really all be looked at for a couple of reasons. A, because a lot of the tiger roads are known to be inaccurate or even not real at all. And secondly, just because they haven't been looked at in 10 years and should deserve another look anyway, even if they are correct. So there's almost 60,000 objects to look at for North Carolina alone. So let's go back to MapRoulette and create a new challenge. We go back to the tutorial project and we say add challenge, and we say North Carolina tiger cleanup. And then we go to Overpass. We copy this from Overpass. So I always encourage people strongly to test their queries in Overpass first, using Overpass Turbo, because it's just a really user-friendly way to, especially if you're newer to Overpass and the language can be a little bit, yeah, it's a learning curve, and it's not like as you can see here, it gets pretty complicated, especially if you're not like um, if you don't have experience in creating kind of queries on data. So definitely practice. So we paste this here. We say we expecting ways, and we click next. So now we go on to exposing the description, exposing very old tiger imported roads to check. And we categorize it as roads. Go to next, and this is the most important part, right? Make good instructions. So we first tell the member what this is. The map highlights a way that was imported from Tiger in 2008 or 9. This is when the Tiger import happened. It has not been looked at much since, at least not since 2010. Can you please have a look and see if this way needs updating? Think about road alignment, road class, pay attention to fake residential roads, exclamation mark. What else could mappers pay attention to? Let's see. Well, let's leave it at this. I think this is good. Normal difficulty. And then here we come to the more advanced options. So we make it not discoverable for now. We configure, let's see, let's change that description. Updating. This is what's going to be added by default back to all the change sets that people create using this challenge. Updating old tiger roads. Next, The base map, let's use the user default. That's fine. So we'll leave it up to the user to figure out what they want to use for base map. The rest we'll leave for now. Okay, so we let this build. This will take a couple of minutes because yeah, it needs to fetch these 50,000 things from Overpass, which will just take a little bit of time. Let's see if we can do something fun in the meantime. I was just working on something else. Let's just do another query. So I was just working on helipads in Utah. Name equals Utah. Oops, should really put this in brackets. U dot U. Node way relation. So this is an interesting one. So you used to need to define nodes, ways, and relations separate, but there's now a shorthand that's NWR. So this will fetch both all nodes, ways, and relations with these properties all in one sort of group result group. Arrow way equals helipad, I think is what it is, and then area.u for that area Utah that we just defined, and then out. I'm going to do out center. So why am I doing that? Because nodes, ways, and relations, of course, that could return either a node or a way or a relation, obviously. So if we want a predictable result that just has the locations, I'm just going to do out center. So even if it's a way, it will still only return the center point. Let's run this and see if I actually did that right. I did not, because I forgot the, to complete that arrow. So this should return pretty quick because it's not a large amount of data. So you see now here all the helipads in Utah. That was just a small diversion while we wait for the MapRoulette task to finish. See, it's still not finished. It could take a little while. You can just keep watching this. You can also just close MapRoulette in the meantime. You don't have to wait for this. You won't get a notification, however, so you just have to return to this URL or navigate through it to it from your project screen. So I'm going to do that. Actually, I'm going to go to my dashboard and show you that that's actually how that works. Create and manage. So I'm going to use the search function tutorial projects. And you see here North Carolina tiger cleanup. You see that it's just still progressing. So this will just keep kind of chugging along in the background. And there's no need to wait for it. In the meantime, I can go over some of the things that you might see here. So you can edit the challenge. So what you can do there is change all the parameters that we just filled or add additional parameters to the challenge. You can move it to a different project. You can clone it, which means that you get exactly the same challenge properties in a new challenge. You can change the overpass query. You can change the title. You can change everything, but everything will be pre-filled for you. So, for example, if I wanted to make a similar challenge for South Carolina, I could just do that and say South Carolina tiger cleanup and just paste that same query. I have to go back. I actually can't do that. Well, I'd have to copy it from the previous challenge and then enter oops, yeah, this happens sometimes. I need to fix that. We'll have to adapt the overpass query to target South Carolina, and the rest will be all pre-filled. So let's see if it's finished in the meantime. It is. So there we go. So this will take a little while. So the reason probably is that it's still processing and it's a lot of tasks. So MapRoulette gets a little bit overloaded and confused. So now we're ready to start this challenge. And that just means that you get taken to the first random task. So I always encourage people to as soon as they create as soon as they finish creating the challenge to start by doing a few tasks themselves to see if it all makes sense, you know. So I'm gonna switch to edit ID because I want to keep this in the browser window because otherwise the stream will be messed up. Usually I use JOSM because I prefer it, but you know, ID is wonderful and I love to use it as well. So click edit in ID and we can see if we can do something about this road. See if it actually makes sense to update this a little bit. It takes a little while because I didn't have ID cached yet. So what I'm seeing here, it's hard to see. Let me try some different aerial imagery. Yeah, so what we see here is really this is a driveway. So we should actually change this. So this is a good candidate already. First of all, we should move it because the actual driveway is somewhere here. And then we should make it a driveway. And then we should probably make it access private. How do we do that in ID again? Access private, there we go. Yeah, and then we upload this, and then we see that the change set comment is pre-filled the way we wanted it to be. So you can upload that and go back to MapRoulette and say that we fixed it. You can add a comment, and we're not going to do that right now, but you can add whatever comment, and the challenge owner, in this case also me, would be able to see those comments and kind of determine if mappers are having fun or trouble, and maybe tweak the challenge a little bit based on that. So I'm going to submit this, and then, as you know, that will take you to the next MapRoulette challenge. I'll do one more before we stop. The video is now 22 minutes already. um, okay, so here's another. So this is marked as a service road, um, whereas really, so you see the alignment is a little bit wrong, and also it seems to go on a little bit more. And also this seems to be a driveway as well. So we're going to mark this more specifically as a driveway and access private as well. This was already marked. So this is good. Only a little bit of a geometry update and make the tag more specific. I'm going to upload that again. And I see, like, after doing a couple tasks, I see this is really nice. This is a good challenge. I would like to keep this. I'm not going to because it's, well, I need to move it to a different project because it's now under the tutorial project. And that doesn't make much sense. So I'm going to actually move it. I'll show you. Go back to MapRoulette and go to click on the project, the challenge title, and then there's a manage link if you're the owner. And now I can move it to my project right here. And now I can make sure, I need to make sure that it's discoverable. And then make sure that my project is discoverable as well. Yes. Okay, can cancel then. And now if I go to the dashboard, sometimes there's a little, or to the find challenges page. Sometimes there's a little bit of a delay until the challenges show up here. And let's see if no, it's not there yet. Let's reload the application and see. No, after a little bit of time, it will be here and it will actually be, if I sort by newest, it would show up on top here. So it's not here yet, but it will, I mean, it will show up after not too long. And yeah, that's it. I think the most important parts, just to summarize, is to use the out geom in if you want ways to test your overpass query in overpass turbo, and really again, of course, to make good instructions. Yeah, I think you should be fine. If you have any questions, like, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter, MVXL, or on OSM, MVXL, or Email me if you know my email address. It's not hard to find. And thank you for watching. Um, really appreciate it. Until the next time. Bye.